That's the Back to Football podcast, the number one podcast for people who probably should talk about something other than football. We're live on Twitch, but you may also be watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, iTunes, or any good podcast provider. If you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you'll see that we've got a pretty full house today, which is exciting. Lots of opinions in the room and lots of different topics to talk about. I'll start by introducing my co-host, going all the way back to the OG. John Miller joins us. How are you, John?
Yeah, not too bad, Dan. Yeah, exactly. Oh, gee. Yeah, it's a lot of episodes, a lot of eps. But yeah, no, feeling good. Happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. All well. We're also joined by Mr. Greg Hollands. Greg TMR, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Glad to be back.
Wearing a Spurs number there? New Spurs number?
Yeah, got the training kit. Nice, isn't it? It's all right. Top of the league. Always feels a bit better.
Always fits slightly better, doesn't it, when you're
the
at the top of
cockroaches
the
are coming
league.
out now.
Tom Nuttall-Jones joins us wearing a sky blue number there. Is that Man City kit?
Not for 1 second. Tribute to the great man that we lost this week. But yeah, sad times. But
getting a stadium named after him, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Napoli's ground. Yeah. So
yeah, which is a
fitting tribute.
Yeah, nice gesture. I think the response across football's been pretty respectful, isn't it, to Maradona this week?
Except from Shilton.
Except from Shilton, yeah. And I saw there was some, I think a South American women's game where someone sat down and turned their back on the minute silence for it out of protest as well. But yeah, we'll probably not dwell on that too much. So we've got two extra hosts or guests joining us today. First up, John Aldino, returning for your third show, I think it is, with us, or fourth? Third or fourth. You're joining us from Springfield. What state is Springfield in?
I think it's Illinois.
Is it Illinois? I think they've always kept it quite a mystery, so you can't find out. But you are actually in the States for real, though, right?
Yeah, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. Hopefully for the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
I should be moving back to London.
Nice. We look forward to that, and we can have you live in our time zone, and it won't be too difficult to link up. And then also joining us, I've kept you till last there. I apologise, but we're joined by Mr. Neil Jolliffe. Neil, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me along. It's a pleasure to come along. I've listened a little bit. And yeah, like nice little stitch up the other week when you said that I was thinking
yeah.
Bit of a manufactured beef that you've got, you're trying to push there a little bit.
Wow, yeah.
But I'd come on and show Greg some love.
Yeah, well, there were several fights, obviously, that happened over the weekend. And, YouTube boxing is a big thing at the moment. So maybe you and Greg will be fighting early on in 2021. We'd be more than happy to see that bout happening. But yeah, I'm glad that you're actually on the show because I feel like Fulham, I still see Fulham as a championship team. Although we got a fantastic win tonight, I do still kind of, regard us in that kind of league. And you're a Reading fan, I believe, a fellow yo-yo club maybe.
Well, we're the best team ever in the Football League with 106 points. But in
the Football League, okay.
I haven't got a horse in your race, but I do have a couple of soft spots. So that'll probably come out throughout. But
Yeah. I should mention then our first point here is the early game this evening, 5:30 kickoff between Leicester and Fulham. Going into this, Tom, I was playing some Warzone with you at the time. I was probably anything but optimistic of a result.
Getting excited. But anyway, back to football.
Yeah. But yeah, we went in 2-0 at half time. Which was a surprise. Ademola Lookman got the opener, and Ivan Cavallero stepped up to take a penalty. Obviously, after slipping and making a mess of his last attempt from the penalty spot, and yeah, we went in at 2-0. Harvey Barnes got a late consolation goal, I guess it is at the end of the game, but at the time it was quite important. And funnily enough, I don't know if anyone saw the game, but Mitrovic actually had a chance to score from way inside his own half, a la Xabi Alonso, and opted not to take the shot, which was quite disappointing because I think that would have been a big confidence boost for him. But I mean, did anyone here on the pod expect that result? Did you expect Leicester to be dropping, all 3 points at home to Fulham tonight? John Miller, I come to you as I came to you first with the intro.
No, not a chance. I thought that was. It's almost kind of like, how many goals? What's it going to be? What's the score? Is it going to be 3? Is it going to be 2? Fulham have been a little bit under par this season. So yeah, I was expecting if there was a penalty, I was expecting Vardy's name on it, not Cavallero's. So you must be buzzing. That's definitely a good confidence boost, because I have watched a few Fulham games and although they have been a bit dreadful, there's been some other games where they've actually been quite unlucky. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just when I didn't actually watch the game, but when I saw the final result, I was a little bit quite happy for Fulham to finally, to get that win and get someone to score on the penalty.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, this year has been, we know there's been some crazy results already, but that Leicester team, there's very few differences in that team. There's a few injuries at the back, but obviously that Leicester team beat Man City 2 months ago 5-2 at the Etihad, and then Fulham turn up and beat them at home. Is this just yet again a result of this Premier League where home away, there's no advantage, I think, to where you play anymore? And yeah, why has the Premier League become this league where teams are so inconsistent, and the best team in the league can lose to a team, and then that team get beaten by, some would say, the worst team in the league, but I would say it's West Brom. Greg, come to you on that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it is anyone's game. Home and away, basically non-existent anymore. The only sort of factor with that is, I suppose, the exhaustion of if you've got a team who are playing in Europe, who are a London club, and they've got to travel up to Newcastle on the weekend. That's probably the only factor that remains at this point. Credit to Fulham. I like watching them play sometimes. I admire the sort of tactic. Mm-hmm. I watched them against Everton, and they play like they want to attack, and they play like they've got strikers that can do damage. Yeah. And it's nice to see them not just shithousing and 0-0. They've been involved in some really interesting games this season, and this is a really good result for them. And yeah, I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem has been we've just been on the back foot for like probably 80% of the minutes played so far this season. I mean, especially that Everton game, we conceded in like 40 seconds to Calvert-Lewin. And it made a big difference today because we showed that we can actually kind of hold a lead and control a game if we get into that position. But that's easier said than done. The other game, Neil, what's the other game happening at the moment?
West Ham Villa, I believe.
West Ham Villa. It's currently 1-0 to West Ham. Let's quickly get our predictions then at this point of the show for what we think that result will go through. As there's no Ross Barkley today, I think he's injured. Conor Hourihane comes in. Interestingly, Hourihane is getting his 150th start or his 150th appearance for Aston Villa today, which is crazy because it seems like only yesterday he was playing for, I think it was Barnsley they bought him in from. But yeah, so Tom, prediction for that game?
2-2.
2-2. John Aldinho?
Yeah.
Doesn't care. Go for the 0-0.
Don't care about the claret and blue derby.
Neil, what's your... Oh, okay,
no,
you go.
I don't. Sorry. No, you're good.
Neil?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's not. I forgot it's even on. Probably 1-0.
1-0. Mr. John Miller?
I think it'll stay as it is, 1-0.
1-0, and then, all right, finally, Tom? Did we already get your prediction? Sorry, Greg, getting mixed up.
I think 3-1 Aston Villa.
3-1 Aston Villa. So you're seeing a big comeback on the cards. Okay, interesting. Right, let's get on to the weekend's action. And first up, we'll talk about the Liverpool result, which was a game that ended 1-1. Tom, we'll come to you on this. If you talk us a little bit through the game itself and how that kind of played out and what you thought of that.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually watch it with it being on BT, which I'm sure we'll be getting to. But by the sounds of things, we were a little slow to start and found it a little tricky to get a control in the midfield at the start, probably as a result of starting Minamino in there, maybe in place of another midfielder. So we really only had a 2, which is obviously quite bold away from home. Obviously, Brighton missed the penalty, and then I think we got a bit more of a grip on the game. And then from what I hear, probably a borderline penalty at the end, which
the one that was given,
the one that they scored, which obviously lent itself to Jurgen's unhappiness at the end of the game.
That Stonewall penalty, that one, yeah.
I mean, it went to VAR. Obviously, it went to VAR again. There was a similar penalty given in the Fulham game this evening, and there was almost a carbon copy of that as well in the. I think it was Inter Milan came back at the weekend from 2-0 down to eventually win 4-2. They had a very similar penalty given as well, and it does seem like those instances maybe just kind of went under the radar before because they're accidental in nature. No one's, Robertson's not trying to kick Welbeck's foot in that moment. And I think, I don't know, is that something that players are almost conditioned to not react to that like a penalty? But then is it still a penalty is, I guess, the question.
I think now, like, the players know that it's going to be done by the letter of the law. So it's like contact, player goes down, and then someone on VAR is looking at it, and it's almost like they've got that on a checklist, and then it's like equals penalty. And I honestly do think that the delay in the contact and the actual moment of Welbeck hitting the deck was quite exaggerated, and I'm surprised like not more has been made of it. But obviously, he's not like a high profile player. I know it's it's cliche, but if like Salah or Harry Kane had that delayed response to contact and didn't go down, or went down, sorry, it would be a talking point on Match of the Day. And yeah, like I say, players know now that it's not just like a referee's view of like that looks like a foul or that doesn't look like a foul. It's almost like a robotic process of like there's been contact and then a player's gone down. Well, then in that case it has to be a penalty and we have to give it. So yeah, it was borderline. I mean, obviously it's clumsy from Robertson, but I don't think that gets given like pre-VAR. So yeah, it's frustrating, but
it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So yeah, I mean, technically, Liverpool see any result that doesn't end in a win is a loss of points, and 2 points drop. But as you mentioned, the results, or as we'll come on to throughout the podcast, results over the weekend ended up going quite well for Liverpool, and especially the Fulham result tonight as well is another result that's actually not too bad for Liverpool at the top of the table. So post-match interview on BT Sport, Des Kelly, who at the time I probably wouldn't have been able to identify as Des Kelly if you said, who is this doing this interview? But yeah, Des Kelly has an interview with Jurgen Klopp, and it kind of took, I guess, a different route to what we would expect in those post-game interviews, where it's very scripted and we see managers kind of just going with sound bites and getting through it, and also, I don't know, it'd be interesting to get you guys' thoughts, but is there a respect line there that was crossed between the journalist and the talent, I guess, or the manager? Neil, I'll come to you on this one. I mean, what was your thoughts on the interview itself to begin with, anyway?
I've got a bit of a soft spot for Klopp, but I agree with him to a certain extent. I think you guys talked about it previously on previous shows, and football sort of eating itself a little bit at the moment. I think like there's so much football on at the moment. There's been no lessons learned from the pandemic from last season. Still trying to squeeze in as much football as we had last season into a smaller amount of time. And I don't just mean international football, because I know you guys have spoke about that, but I think the League Cup, like what's the point of the League Cup? Like, why is it there? I don't know. I think like him singling out Wilder was a bit. I don't know if he should have. Like I think there was like 4 managers that voted against the 5 substitute rule. So I don't know. He's dug out Wilder a little bit there, and he probably shouldn't have named names. But I think he has got a point. I think you guys have spoken about it. But why are we so Brexit sometimes? Like we're the only league in Europe or something stupid like that hasn't adopted 5 subs. So I don't know. That's all I can really say on it, really.
Yeah. John Aldinho, any thoughts on? So I mean, if anyone didn't hear the interview, I guess the argument that was being, or the debate, I guess, that was put forward was that the broadcasters are as much at fault as anyone else.
So basically, he's back.
Sorry, yeah, I dropped out. There we go. I mean, you have to bear in mind, probably, if my connection's not coming through, then it won't be going through to Twitch either. But we're good now, I think. So yeah, John Aldinho, coming back to you.
Yeah, so I think you just got to deal with it. I mean, you can complain all you want, but you're in England, you know what it's like here. I think regardless if there's 3 or 5 subs, everyone's in the same boat. You know what I mean? Deal with it. And I think the English FA should have done stuff like with, the FA Cup and the Carling Cup or whatever the other cup's called now. Like, do they really need to go on this season? It's like, it used to be for like the lower league teams, it would help them get like gate receipts and stuff. But if they're not getting money now, then just hold off on it for a year. And then, like Neil said, the international, they're basically pointless. Like, what's the point doing this? I haven't really been a fan of them in the past, and all this like revamping and trying to do a Nations League and what, it's still BS. Right?
Yeah. I think it is a difficult transition, and it's I think there is all that unknown. This whole year has been a case of no one really knows what's happening, and I think football is also trying to adapt to that, and a lot of it feels a bit like damage limitation in some aspects, where they're trying to hold on to things and keep things as normal as possible in the hope that this kind of was supposed to go away 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago. But yeah, it is getting to the stage now where we are seeing the negative side and the repercussions of playing this much football, constant. There's at the moment there is football on every single day. If you want to watch football, it's on right now. Like there's no two ways about it. And I think John, I think I might have got cut off when I was actually making the point, but I think Des Kelly and Jurgen Klopp kind of had a bit of a debate around the broadcasters' influence in selecting the top teams, and then inevitably you get the top teams play in Europe. So there's almost like a catch-22 situation where, funnily enough, BT Sport also have the rights to the Champions League. So they're getting viewership on the Champions League for, you know, Liverpool fans tuning in on a Wednesday, and then they're also selecting, or, you know, there's this debate whether it's the Premier League or BT Sport that are selecting this midday kickoff on a Saturday. Is there a simple fix here where they just say, you know, if you're a team that plays in Europe, you don't play on Saturdays anymore? Or does that create a kind of a bad fan experience or a bad user experience for people watching Premier League on Saturdays? Like, are the rest of the teams there? You know, would you want to watch Burnley versus Fulham at 12 o'clock on a Saturday? That's the question. John.
Who's that to me?
John Miller.
Oh, me?
Mills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Total silence. Can you?
Yeah. Listen. I just think I agree with John Ardino on this one. I think Greg shares the same sentiment. They've got to deal with it.
I'll get to it. Don't you worry.
When you now there's all these injuries and stuff. I do sympathize, empathize, whatever the right word is. I do sympathize with them because obviously you look at Liverpool, there's players getting injured. It's not just Liverpool either, you know. So it is tough. And if they did have 5 subs or whatever, then yeah, they could rotate, you know, maybe some people off at 60 minutes, and you know, and then we might get to see a few more up and coming players come through and get a bit more game time. But in terms of the top 7 or whatever it is who qualify for the Champions League, they get money for that. So when they they get prize money, winners money, so they then should use that money to then sort out their squads, make sure that that they can rotate, they've got the quality in their squads because they're prepared for it. When the season starts, they've got their targets, Wolves, Leicester, Liverpool, Arsenal, whatever. Oh, Arsenal, not sure, but they'll aim to get in the European places. That's their aim. So you can't moan when you get there, and then say, I'm not, it's not fair. Players get injured Wednesday, Saturday, and I think that would be dreadful if they moved it all to Sunday, because then there'd be like no real top marquee games on a Saturday. Like you say, who's going to watch West Ham Villa at 12 o'clock kickoff? Like, I think when those games are when they've got those games, if Liverpool have those games, they should be able to rotate his squad effectively to ensure that you're not playing Robinson 90 minutes for both games. You know what I mean? But that's how I feel. I think they get the money for it. They should manage their squads a lot better. I will say though, I do agree with Klopp to a point. This season is slightly different. So he's saying, I did see the argument and the debates. He's saying, like, overall, I get it. Last season, wasn't moaning as much about it. But this season, with COVID and the lack of pre-season, maybe they could have done something. So he was saying, which I agree with, why couldn't they get the 5:30? Or Arsenal played at 7:45 or 8. Why couldn't Liverpool play? No, Arsenal played on Sunday. Sorry, my bad. There was I'm not sure what game was.
Man United. No, they were on Sunday as well. We'll fact check that.
But either way, I do agree with that. They could have said right, and also they should probably kind of factor in where they are, how far the travel is, and all the rest of it, and then maybe an extra few hours for a televised game would be beneficial for a Champions League team. For sure.
Yeah, it wasn't a fixture of note actually on the evening. It was West Brom Sheffield, which is arguably the worst game in the league. Greg, you had some points to make on this with regard to Klopp.
Well, I think I said it to you earlier, Dan, is that it seems like every week we do this podcast, and every week we have every weekend we have a weekend of football. It seems like the last topic of conversation is the actual 90 minutes that's played each time. Brighton played really well. They deserved a point there. Probably should have gone up probably 2-0 in the first half, really. Liverpool are looking a little bit more toothless this season, and Brighton played really well. And it's just a shame that we're not talking about that. We're sort of culpable of that ourselves here. I suppose there's an argument to what Klopp is saying, but this isn't anything new, really. For as long as I've been watching football, there's been European games midweek and then Premier League in the weekends. It does happen, and Liverpool are getting injuries, teams are getting injuries, and I imagine COVID is having an effect on that. But the clubs also agree to when the fixtures are as well, so they're equally culpable, and I suppose they follow the money in that respect. So I stand by my point and agree with John Aldinho, and the fund that I struggle to really sympathise with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair enough. I mean, fixtures at the moment as well are not really. I know they're congested in terms of you look at it over the lack of break, but teams are playing maybe 2 games a week. The real, when we usually talk about fixture congestion, it's like, oh, so and so's got to play 5 times in 14 days or something like that, which is usually over the Christmas period. So I do wonder if if Klopp and Solskjaer and all these managers are complaining now about fixture congestion, what is it going to be like when December, mid-December rolls around? And I'm just looking now at the fixtures coming up around that time. Liverpool play on the 9th, the 13th, the 16th, the 19th, and then not until the 27th. So
it's like a game every 3 days.
Yeah.
There's no mid-season break, is there, either this year or whatever it is?
No, not that we really had that. But are they skipping that in Bundesliga and Tom?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, got Christmas off, like a week basically off. That's
Right.
it. No, I mean, I said it on a previous pod. I don't agree with the 5 sub thing, and I don't support that. The sort of complaining about that, because I think the main point of it is that it would just be very like, the question is like, when do you go back? And I think it opens up a bit of a Pandora's box of like, okay, we had it for the sort of resumed season during lockdown. That was fair enough. And then we made that decision to like go back to 3 subs, and we could carry on with 5 subs indefinitely, and there'd always be an argument against it based on player well-being whenever we decided to do that. And I just think like it's better to not open that Pandora's box where it's forever and we always have 5 subs. I think Klopp tried to make the argument that he said, oh, I'd only be doing it to like, he said I'd definitely take Robbo off and I'd put on Costas instead. It's not like to throw on another attacker.
Yeah.
But it's still you're still
not an improvement.
You're still freshening up freshening up your team by throwing on another international player.
Mm-hmm.
So I do completely I am completely against the 5 subs thing, and I don't back Klopp on that. But when it comes to the argument that you had about the TV rights, the thing I objected to is obviously Des Kelly, and then all of the other like media employees like Gary Lineker especially, and several others, piping up on Twitter like defending the honor of broadcasters and saying that they're, as Des Kelly put it during the interview, like supporting the game. I think that's complete rubbish. They whoever pays the piper calls the tune, and they are just calling the tune. Sky get the first pick of the weekend's games, and obviously they pick Spurs Chelsea as the big game, and then BT get the second pick, and obviously they're more than entitled to pick whichever game they want, as the current rules suggest. But there should be, some common sense that the product is obviously changed when there are all these injuries. And even though, as other people have said tonight, we have always had European football. We've always had teams that have to play Wednesday, Saturday. This year it is a bit different because the Champions League group stage is taking place over a vastly shorter period of time. So usually you would have like every other week a Champions League game. At the moment it's every week. So yeah, I think Klopp had a right. People saying he's picked on the wrong person in obviously going after Des Kelly, but it's a public forum to obviously make that point. If he just gives the call of BT Sport a bell on Monday afternoon, no one's talking about it. So I think he had every right to make that point. I can see obviously BT Sport have every right in the current contract to like pick whatever game they want, and obviously they want to pick Liverpool. But for Des Kelly to claim that you know, they're completely blameless and they're just supporting the game, and you know, they don't have this influence. I think that's wrong.
He's also deflecting that they drew, so you know.
But the thing about that is that he was saying the same thing last week, and him and Guardiola were both making the same point when they weren't even on the Wednesday, Saturday. It was when Man United were on it, and we mentioned that on the pod, and I said, yeah, this week it's Solskjaer who's got every right to be annoyed because United were forced to play Wednesday, Saturday, and so he's consistent. It's just obviously getting more traction this week because we didn't win.
Yeah. Is there any chance that it is that kind of and I'm sure managers have been doing it for years. I think of Mourinho really as the master of it, but you know, when a result hasn't necessarily gone your way, and I did think the one thing with Klopp this week, because usually like every game he comes out and says fantastic, best performance ever, so proud of the boys, like, and genuinely, like, for the last 2 years there has been like absolutely everything on the pitch has been given by that Liverpool team, and I've thought that is the correct comment to make. After the Brighton game, I watched the entire game. I thought Liverpool didn't have a good game, and he still came out and with the best performance ever. Well, not best performance ever, but you know, so proud of the boys, brilliant performance. I don't know, like I did think. So back to the point of Jose here is saying something or changing the narrative to take it away from, because no one's really talked about the Liverpool performance that much since. Like I say, our main point here, talking about it on the podcast, is Klopp's rant and what Klopp said afterwards, and Des Kelly and the broadcasters, etc., etc. Like, is that one of the oldest tricks in the book, Neil, for a manager to just kind of deflect and take personal responsibility, I guess, in the media?
Yeah, I think potentially, yeah, like definitely. I think I've only watched it on Match of the Day, but if that Mane offside, or whichever one it was where he pretty much was on side, I don't know what happened with that.
Salah, I think, scored, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, that's Liverpool 2-0 up, and they won the game. And how many times did they play badly last season and win the game?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can read too much into it. I know, like, it's a bit of a crazy season, but yeah, like ultimately he's just quite annoyed, I think, because they've lost the points at the end of the game.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll park our Liverpool chat there for the week. Next up is the Man United game, I guess, to talk about. They went 2-0 down to a very good Southampton team. Aston Villa, by the way, is 1-1 now. Jack Grealish scored 25 minutes. So yeah, Man United go 2-0 down at St Mary's. At half time, Solskjaer makes the substitution of Mason Greenwood off, Edinson Cavani on. I think he was forced into also bringing Dean Henderson on for David De Gea, who was injured as a result of James Ward, another incredible James Ward-Prowse free kick. But yeah, Cavani kind of ends up changing the game, gets an assist for Bruno Fernandes' goal, scores the equaliser 74 minutes, and then eventually gets an added time winner with his head. Again, the headlines, or the headlines this morning are not really about the result itself. It's been flipped on a comment made by Cavani on his Instagram story, which was in reference to Bruno Fernandes. So he posted a Bruno Fernandes post, and in a kind of a message to Bruno, said gracias, and then we won't actually say the word on here, but the N word in Spanish is a very grey area here. Now, has everyone seen the post itself? Okay, so it was the same word apparently that Luis Suarez had used with Evra back then, and the translation. I've spoken to a couple of Spanish-speaking friends today, and asked for kind of translations around it, and the translation is "little black friend," is the thing, and this is Edinson Cavani saying that to Bruno Fernandes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bruno's quite white. He's maybe slightly tanned for Portuguese, but and interestingly, this same word had come up in a documentary about Maradona from this year, where Maradona had actually said that that's what people refer to him as because he was slightly tanned. So I mean, I don't know what the cultural significance is with it in South America, but we had players today like Troy Deeney came. I think he was on TalkSport this morning. Greg's that right? And he said, it's it probably is deserving of some kind of punishment. We saw Bernardo Silva, I think, late on in the season last year, got a 1-game ban for a similar comment made on social media, different context, but a similar thing done on social media with Mendy, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mendy was wearing a black t-shirt and he said, "Why aren't you clothes?" Something like that.
I said what, sorry?
Why aren't you wearing a t-shirt?
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
He was wearing a black top and he asked
Yeah.
why you weren't wearing a black t-shirt,
Yeah. So, yeah, there's basically another big race debate on now in the Premier League, and I'm not asking anyone to kind of take a stance on it, and I think we kind of agree that it is something that there's multiple layers of context here, and maybe one thing said in one moment is different in another, but
I'll go.
yeah, Greg, you come in. Yeah, I don't want to throw someone under the bus.
No, yeah, you got you. Obviously, I don't feel prepared enough to talk about the semantics of all of this that's going on. Obviously, I don't think any of us are 100% fluent in Spanish, so probably don't sit in the same in the writers or context to discuss that. But I think that my issue is that the way that social media and the mainstream media have sort of jumped straight on this without discussing the context or talking about who Cavani is. By all accounts, he seems like a nice bloke, and the context of what he said to Bruno Fernandes, I don't think that there's enough nuance around it to talk about why is this a problem, if it's a problem, what was Cavani meaning? And it's straight away a witch hunt of how long can we ban him for what he said. And, I don't know about people's education on Spanish, if people on social media are straight away going for it for the context that they're putting on it rather than the true context around it. That's my only problem. Right or wrong, I think that it's bandwagoned on as a bit of witch hunt straight away. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. And like, just look at the context. He said it to Bruno Fernandes, who is his friend, teammate, and there's nothing racial in that. It's just a culture thing. I mean, I was saying in the group chat that when this Evra thing came out, Evra and Suarez thing came out, I actually looked up the word, and apparently it's described for like people in South Asia, Philippines, and like Filipinos also called this word, but it's all about context.
Yeah.
Sorry, my wife is saying, making faces in the background. But yeah, so it's all about context, man. It would be different if you said it to someone else.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. If you posted it of
not.
Rashford, Martial, maybe a black player on his team, it would be different. I think Troy Deeney alluded to the education factor there, and that there should be some kind of education given to, maybe instead of punishment, it should be kind of like a public education given to Cavani. I don't. I mean, do you think, like John? Do you think whenever a South American player comes to the Premier League now, they should instantly kind of be sat down? And in some ways, you would think that the media kind of machines around these clubs and they're so at the forefront of all news and all sports, and held at such high scrutiny for everything they say, and especially with former cases of other high-profile Uruguayan players. So the Evra and Suarez incident, which involved the same word, I think should someone have really sat him down and said, "Look, here's a list of words that are just not acceptable in England."
I think based on like Greg said, the social media reaction to it, the sort of mainstream media reaction, then yeah, because that I think all footballers should have some form of media training. I know if I was running the club, I would probably do that, just because it's happening way too much now, where players are getting in trouble for things that they said, or that sometimes it's not even okay. Park this incident, but like people like share things, they like things, and I just think there should be some education. And if I was a player going to another country to play, I would want to sort of immerse myself in the culture and know what's right and what's wrong and what's acceptable. And I think, I do think that could happen, because that should happen. Because what might be acceptable language for say me and John Aldinho to talk behind closed doors might not be acceptable for me to talk in the workplace. So I do think that as trivial as it sounds, or like every non-English speaker should come and get something. I think the way of the world now. It's the world we live in, and I do think that that's something that clubs should put in place. Otherwise, this will not be the last.
Yeah. I should add as well, Cavani has apologised this afternoon. So it was here's the actual apology. So it was intended as an affectionate greeting to a friend, thanking him for his congratulations after the game. The last thing I wanted to do was cause offence to anyone. I'm completely opposed to racism and deleted the message as soon as it was explained that it can be interpreted differently. I would like to sincerely apologise for this. And then the FA responded to that, saying it's clear to us that there's absolutely no malicious intent behind Edison's message, and he deleted it as soon as he was informed that it could be misconstrued. Oh, sorry, that's a United statement, not the FA. Edinson has issued an apology for any unintentional offence caused. Manchester United and all of our players are fully committed to the fight against racism. So yeah, the FA will still look into it though, and I would expect that there will be some form of punishment given to him. I'm not sure. I think he'd probably get the Bernardo Silva 1-game ban. I'm not sure.
Ridiculous.
Which is
Yeah, I just think it's just ridiculous.
Neil, any closing comments on Cavani?
Yeah, well, like everyone said, I don't know enough about it to really give you too much comment. I think like with the FA, there's always precedent and this should be really looked at as a bit of an isolated incident, even though it's the same word as what Suarez said. The contexts are so different. So yeah, it's a real tricky one. And again, it's a shame that we're chatting about something like this after he's
a good performance.
He's come on and changed the game pretty much. His movement was pretty crazy, and a lot of the Merson brigade are quite quiet at the moment, because the Paul Merson pundits of the world would have said that he'd have been a flop and he's too old. So I mean, I think he's from what we know, it looks like he's just made a mistake and didn't mean it.
Yeah, as Greg mentioned, for all we know, he seems like a good guy that's not, hasn't set out to cause any offence. You mentioned that he's been really good this year, and some had deemed him to be a flop. Another one of his PSG teammates of years past that has been very impressive, who we constantly mention on this podcast, and I bring him up every week in the group chat, but Thiago Silva got another clean sheet this week, yet another clean sheet at the back. He's organising. I think he looks like he's organising that Chelsea defence pretty perfectly, alongside Zuma, and then whichever fullbacks that Frank Lampard seems to pick each week. And obviously he's got this, ridiculously good goalkeeper behind him now as well, speaking the same language as him as well, or being able to speak French together, I think, which is helping a lot. Greg, this was a game that I think you were very excited for this weekend. You and John Aldinho had a lot of back and forth.
God, was I excited!
You guys had a lot of back and forth in the group chat before the game at the Bridge. Did it play out kind of as you were expecting? Was it a better or worse game than you were hoping for?
Right, it was positive back and forth, John Aldinho. It was positive. It was quite constructive, I feel. I think that Jose went into that game, I think, potentially wanting to squeeze out a 1-0, but then towards the last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, it was, right, let's shut up shop. We're not getting anything from this. I think we did well. We did well to maintain a clean sheet against Chelsea. They're a very, very good team. We didn't really have a lot of attacking opportunities, and when we did really take them. But, I think that's part of the tactics. We get a draw against Chelsea, hopefully try and get a win against Arsenal next week. That looks a little bit more doable. And, we're top of the league. Top of the league, baby. I can't argue with that. Point to point to point.
Mm-hmm.
John Aldinho, what was your...
it was a good game. Very tense. I think I could feel Greg's nerves in the chat, and I was the same way. Especially when we weren't taking our chances, I thought it might just be a game where Tottenham could steal a goal on the counter, but we were organised, which was good. I don't remember Kane or Son doing much, which is a credit to the defence, like you said. And I'm just disappointed that we didn't score.
Yeah, Chelsea certainly looked the more likely team to snatch a result at the end, particularly that Giroud chance right at the end where he sort of gambled on Joe Rodon's pass back to Lloris. Tom, did you catch this game? Did you see any of this game?
I didn't, unfortunately, but good result for us. Both sides looking good, obviously, at the top. They definitely would have picked the draw going into it. I think obviously both sides have shown a huge amount of potential at both ends of the field so far this year, and obviously this game proves it. 0-0, it's a proper result, isn't it? Well fought game. It's almost more concerning that they've done that than if it was 4-4.
Yeah.
These are two circuses. We don't have much to worry about, but 0-0, it's a solid kind of. They've both cancelled each other out. Probably both two pretty solid sides that'll be up there and thereabouts at the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. John Miller, thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, it played out to be. Could have been a 1-0 game either way, and it was just unfortunate that from the highlights that I saw that Chelsea didn't get it. They looked to have the better chances. I think Tammy Abraham, Giroud. I think Tammy Abraham. I think he missed. Didn't he miss one? Miss a couple.
Yeah. He had chances. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a few chances, and I just think it just shows that he's not quite there yet. And I think that although it was a well thought out game, both teams defensively solid. I think for Chelsea, for me, that just shows why I don't think Chelsea can win the league this year. I don't think if if Timo Werner's not banging in the goals, Werner, however you say it, then he doesn't seem to fancy Giroud week in, week out. And I guess his goal scoring record at Arsenal doesn't prove that he should be there anyway. And Tammy Abraham just, for me, is not quite a top 4 striker in my opinion. So I just think unless their midfield pull a few rabbits out of the hat, I think they probably will finish in the top 4. But I think I don't think that Chelsea can win the league with Tammy Abraham and Giroud.
Interesting. I mean, with Pulisic and Havertz kind of coming back into the squad and at full fitness, it would be interesting maybe if he does put Werner back into the central striker position. But yeah, there's something there at the moment with Werner where he's not quite at full confidence. I feel like he looks, he's in good condition and stuff, but I think the confidence is not quite there with him yet, and it will be interesting to see if he can hit that, the heights that he was at in maybe in the Bundesliga. Neil, what's your thoughts on Chelsea particularly so far this season? Great squad.
Yeah, decent. Obviously you spoke excellently about how good they've been at the back and stuff. I don't know if anyone saw the Werner finish that was ruled out, but it was like peak Henry. It was a lovely little finish. Obviously it was offside, but that one where he just sort of bends it.
Yeah.
That was lovely. I think like you said, Thiago Silva's an unreal signing, and I think they probably took him there to play 10, 15 games for the season and then just be there for the experience and talk the other centre-halves through it, gain that experience, because Christensen and Zuma have got a lot of potential, but I think they probably need someone alongside them and can't really play together. So, yeah, I think...
Has that 10 games, though, become 30 plus now?
Yeah.
They're in a position where he's their Van Dijk.
Yeah, for me, he's more important than Mendy. I think Mendy is obviously just really useful because he's not Kepa. So he's just it makes a massive difference having someone behind you that you can rely on. But yeah, Thiago Silva's massive, I think, and he's another one. He's a bit like Cavani. He's in great shape. Automatically sort of rule them out because they've come from the French league, and some people call that Farmers League, but I don't know how true that is. So I'll probably agree with John. I think they're probably not quite there in terms of winning the league, but I don't think they'll be too far off.
I think there's a slight argument as well with these players having played in the French league and for maybe a less strenuous PSG team or whatever life in Paris. Does that actually extend your career a bit? Because you think about the intensity of the Premier League, and if you're a 29-year-old playing in the Premier League, going into your early 30s, there probably is more taxing if you're playing 38 games a season or 30 plus games a season versus like maybe a slightly more luxurious, pampered experience for PSG. That's something to consider, that maybe these players are able to kind of have that slight, more longevity in their career because they're having a slightly easier time with it. Greg, what was your final thoughts then on Spurs in that game? Jose more happy than Frank to take away a point?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's part of the game plan. I think we did well. I think that defensively, Joe Rodon, it was his not his debut, but his first full 90 minutes. He played really well. A couple of mistakes there, but he's young, Welsh talent. He'll be solid. He'll be good. And Hugo Lloris, I think, doesn't get enough credit. There was a couple of saves that he made that kept us in the game. It makes me a little bit more confident in our defensive efforts than I have been on the podcast. But yeah, solid.
Yeah, nice one. Sorry to do it to you, John, but we'll quickly talk about Arsenal.
We're running out of time.
Quickly talk about Arsenal to kind of round off the pod today. They came up against a good Wolves team. There's no shame in losing to Wolves. But yeah, I mean, worst start to the season, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Ever in the Prem, is that right?
No. It's since something like 1960 something.
Yeah.
I think someone mentioned it on Match of the Day, but I think if we lose North London derby, it will be.
Yeah, I mean, you're only 6 points ahead of Fulham at this point.
I know. I mean, Roy Keane hit the nail on it. I mean, I actually disagree with Roy Keane. I'm not sure if we have enough to stay up. If we are playing the way we are, like if things don't change dramatically, then yeah, like, you know, I can see West Brom just creeping up on us. Yeah, it's look, I've got the hashtag Arteta out. I mean, I don't think I said the same thing last week. I'll say it again. He needs. I think what will really be a turning point for him is if he wins the North London derby. If he wins the North London derby, buys him some credit, he can turn things around. Maybe the boys can get a lift, and then, you know, they can pick up a few results. Then maybe, but me personally, I can't see it. I can't see it. I think my prediction is things are just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse until he gets sacked. He won't be the first manager to get sacked after like winning a trophy. I mean, you look at Ranieri, you know, won the league and then got sacked. You know, it happens. But something's not quite right there. I don't know whether they get a chance in Christmas to after Christmas to repick their squad, or is it? I'm not quite sure. Is that their squad for the season? But because he hasn't put Ozil in, I don't know whether that's going to change. And if that isn't going to change, and he's not going to put him in, he needs to, you know, get a January transfer in that's going to make some changes, because at the moment I don't think we're defensively strong enough to not concede. So it wouldn't be as bad. Look, we're not. I mean, apart from the Villa game, we're not getting overrun and out pumped every single week. It's just we're not creating anything, which means the door's always ajar for oppositions to get a late goal, a goal before half time, and then we just. I don't know if you. Sorry for the rant. If you've been watching football for a long time, you remember Man United teams where, you know, there'll be 5 minutes to go, they'll be 1-0 down, and they'll just be whipping in crosses left, right, and centre. Yeah. There'll just be this urgency. Arsenal used to have it as well, you know, sort of thing. And I just, you know, Kieran Tierney with 4 minutes to go, you're playing it back to the goalkeeper, and they're working it around. And I'm like, you do know you're losing 2-1, right? Like, and I just think there's no leaders there in the squad. There's no one there to be like, come on. Aubameyang just kind of trudging around, like he's not grabbing it. And I'm looking at our starting 11, and even the players that I don't think are even having really a bad run of it at the moment, which is probably Saka. I don't see anyone who's going to change this within the players that we've got. The players that he's starting, the subs he's bringing on, I can't see anybody changing this rot that we're in. So it's going to have to either come from him, or it's going to have to come from a January transfer window, or maybe a youngster. I don't know why he doesn't just throw Smith Rowe in. You know, he's a creative player, or Balogun. Because on Nketiah, like I said, I'm not buying a ticket for that Nketiah raffle. I don't think he's that good. I don't know why. He's gonna have to do something. I don't know what he's gonna have to do, but if he doesn't do something, I think he could get sacked by Christmas. If we keep losing the way we are, I'd want him out by Christmas.
Yeah. Tom, do you think this is a year where managers are getting a bit more grace because of
100%.
conditions?
Yeah, I think it's so difficult, especially like not having a pre-season. You know, the fixture congestion as well. It's not the same for everyone, but yeah, it's so different. As you know, I know we've discussed the impact of the fans as well, whether that's positive or negative, and whether it takes the pressure off the players a bit more, or whether it's kind of puts them into a bit of a confused state because it's not what they're used to. But yeah, there are certainly differences either way, and you've got to. You know, I think a few weeks ago we said, you know, no managers are really even being talked about as like being one game away from the sack, or, you know, a couple of bad results away from the sack. And I think that's definitely indicative of the current situation. You know, possibly, you know, with the exception of Arsenal, and that is obviously why we're talking about Arteta. Maybe there's no other teams that are really like underperforming. Maybe United as well are kind of getting back to it, and we've talked about Solskjaer, but you know, maybe for the most part there isn't anyone apart from those two teams who are looking that out of place. So maybe it's just by coincidence as well. But yeah, I think you'd expect a bit more patience from club owners and fans. But yeah, just because of the way things are this season, it's a complete outlier.
Yeah, I think as well, not having a team running away on, you know, 29 points from 10 games or something like that also helps, because actually ultimately Arsenal were only 8 points 8 points off of first place, And you know, in a normal season, if you were 8 points from the team at the top, at this point, you might be in third or fourth place.
Yeah, I think earlier when you said about the Liverpool result, that you know it's terrible to drop any points and it feels like a loss, but really that's a rarity, and it's got sort of been made to feel common by the last couple of seasons of City and Liverpool.
3 seasons.
But actually, in a normal season, you know, you can draw away at Brighton or drop a few points to. I mean, you know, United would win the league after they'd got like stuffed 6-3 by Southampton back in the day. You know, these results do happen in a competitive league, and it's only in the last couple of years that's made it seem like that's not the case. So.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I'm all up for that. Like, it's nice to watch, you know, as a neutral on those games, like a Saturday lunchtime fixture, Liverpool Brighton, and not know who's going to win, and you know, being able to watch it and the underdog snatch a result. You know, that's what we want from the Premier League, and I think it's. As long as one team doesn't run away with the Premier League and get 100 points, which I think mathematically, I don't think any team can probably even get 100 points anymore. Let me just do a quick maths on that. 28 games to play. They could probably just sneak it, but you'd have to win. You'd have to win like every game remaining. What is that? That's 84 plus 21, 105.
No, Liverpool and Spurs have dropped 9 points each.
Yeah.
And
so they could get 105 points.
114 is the max. So.
Yeah.
You'd have to win every game.
Yeah.
But I think my point with Arsenal is they're not playing. They're not playing well. I think if we were playing well and we'd still got the results that we had, and you know, we were like, there's been seasons where we've like hammered a team or had like 25 shots and still lost. I'd rather that than what we're playing now. It's just, I watched, like I put a message on the chat, like I watched like the first half, and I just thought I can't watch anymore. Like, and that's how I'm watching Arsenal now. A lot of Arsenal fans are saying the same thing. There's just not, it doesn't look like Arsenal, and I get it. You know, Chelsea spent some money, bought some good players. Liverpool squad's fantastic. City, even Spurs, you'd accept. You know, maybe finishing fifth, but you'd kind of just want a bit more entertainment from the club, from the players, and they just look bereft of ideas, and they're just not playing well, and it's just like you're watching it, and it's like, and it just looks so inevitable that we're not going to win this game. Like we're creating 2 shots, you know, 4 shots a game, none on target. It's just poor, really, really poor to watch.
Yeah,
that's the only reason why. And I do think you guys are right. Managers are getting a little bit more credit because of the COVID situation. But I think the reason why I think Arsenal fans will start to sort of bang that door a little bit earlier is because of the performances. If we had the performances but not the results, you could say, yeah, you know, it's a process, you know, COVID, but we're not getting the results, and the performances have just been dreadful.
Okay. All right, let's do a really quick social media roundup. I'll throw to, I don't know, I'll decide when I'm doing it. So this is the social media roundup for BTF 59. First up on the show today, we talked about Jurgen Klopp's post-match interview with Des Kelly. Greg, I'm going to come to you on this one. We're back to the same old argument, 5 subs or not, and also do broadcasters kind of have an influence on player fatigue and injuries at this point?
5 subs is ridiculous. We've discussed it before on the podcast. Make sure to go and check it out on YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, Klopp needs to sort of get over himself a little bit.
Tom, do you agree with that? There'd be a side eye there.
5 subs, I agree with, and the rest.
Stand by your man. Stand by your man. Next up, we spoke about the Manchester United game. Obviously, the 3-2, blockbuster as it was. This game was overshadowed by an Instagram post by Edinson Cavani. We had a pretty level conversation about this and discussed whether it's an educational thing and whether Cavani should receive any kind of retrospective ban for this. John, I'll come to you on this one. What was your thoughts on the situation? I know you didn't see the post straight away, but having talked about it on the pod, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think education would probably be best. You know, he's an international, he's a foreign player coming to a different country, and I think that education would probably be the best way forward for him to understand what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. The context shows that it wasn't done in a malicious way, so yeah, that's what I would like to see. But you never know with the FA.
Yep. Obviously, I should mention we're also joined on this podcast by the wonderful Neil Jolliffe for his debut show, and John Aldino is returning with us from Springfield for what we think is your third or fourth show. We couldn't quite work it out. Third show, John Aldino?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, third show.
Yeah.
So, John Aldino, you're a Chelsea fan. Were you happy with the 0-0 result at Stamford Bridge?
No, we should have won, but it's what it is. The classic Mourinho tactics, so yeah, it's all good.
Okay, we'll leave that at that. And then finally, Neil, I'm coming to you on Arsenal, as none of us kind of got a word in edgeways over John Miller during the actual show, which you can go back and watch on YouTube or Twitch. But is Arteta in trouble at Arsenal at the moment? Is he kind of at risk of losing his job?
I think he potentially is getting in the way of the old dreaded vote of confidence, which could be coming pretty soon. But I think this is quite... Arsenal haven't been great in probably the last 4 or 5 games, and John's a lot more qualified to answer this question than me. But I always thought that Arteta's, got a bit of a plan, and it might take a while to implement. So I would give him a bit more time. I would, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be much happier than if I was a United fan with the PE teacher. So, I'd probably stick with him for a little bit longer. I'm a bit unsure why. Like, I haven't seen a lot of Arsenal, but I'm a bit unsure as to why he's changed it, because he used to have, with 3 at the back, it looked a lot better. I know that was the back end of last season with David Luiz. You can't play David Luiz in a 2 for me, but I like him in a 3. So. Yeah, not sure what's happening there.
Yeah. Final point, John, is AFTV, are they on his back? Mixed.
They're the same sort of thing as me. They're a bit mixed. They're a bit like something. It's more like kind of my tone. Something needs to change very soon. I'm talking the next 3 to 4 games. Otherwise, we will get cut adrift in a season where we have an opportunity to win, to get in the top 4. An opportunity, and I think if we blow that opportunity. Where people are dropping points left, right, and centre, I think the fans they'll be quite disappointed.
Yeah, and it doesn't help.
London derby. If we can win the North London derby, I think that puts a lot of credit in the bank.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't help having those noisy neighbours top of the league. So that is the social media roundup for BTF 59. Please do check us out on Spotify, iTunes, all good podcast providers, also Twitch and YouTube. Cool. Right, guys, that is the show for this week. Run over probably by about 5 minutes on the hour, but a good one. Good one. Everyone enjoy it?
All good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all same place, same time next week.